CNN senior political commentator and former Republican Congressman of Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. It's great to see you. We're just hearing from our colleague there, Elena Treen, about everything that's going on around Mar-a-Lago right now. It is clear that as Trump continues to spend his weeks in this courtroom in Manhattan, he's also continues to be the center of the Republican universe.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it's always interesting after these events to see the pictures that come out of Mar-a-Lago. It's really become like a weird kind of Hollywood for kind of certain people, which is unique. I don't know. I just politics to me never felt like Hollywood, but it does to some people. The interesting thing is this vice president race. I mean, let's talk about who's not there. Kristi Noem, after admitting to shooting her dog in the face, somehow thinking that was going to help her in this VP stakes. As far as I know, she's not there. Maybe she is, but she is certainly out of the running for vice president, I think, because even Donald Trump would have a problem with that. And so it'll be interesting to see all that. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen is Donald Trump will spend as much time as he can trying to get these potential VP candidates to compete against each other to try to do more, I don't know, kissing up to Donald Trump, we'll say, so he can extract just as much juice from the turnip as he can before he has to pick a vice president.
All right, and that is going to play out, to your point, in the next several months as we get closer to the convention, and we'll see how that goes. It reminds everyone a little bit of The Apprentice, does it not? As he has them all and sees how they all perform. Elena also talking about House Speaker Mike Johnson at an RNC event yesterday, in the midst of this threat to be ousted by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And we've seen Mike Johnson, who wasn't particularly close with Trump in the way that, say, Marjorie Taylor Greene is, really try to develop a relationship with him. And Trump has said, he's trying to do his job. Do you think that he can save his speakership by kind of triangulating in this way?
I mean, sure, yeah. If Donald Trump is going to support Mike Johnson won't go anywhere. Personally, I have very mixed feelings about this because I would love to see Marjorie Taylor Greene get basically ousted from the GOP, which I think she's on the edge of doing. I mean, I think there's enough people that have had enough of her antics. But in that process, what we have to be careful of is, and this is just my opinion, to normalize Trump and to somehow say that Trump is the normal part of the GOP. I mean, this is a guy that still tried to overthrow the will of the people last election, has basically made it clear he wants mass deportations and doesn't consider anybody citizens. I mean, this is a mess. So, but if you can at least take out Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Johnson did the right thing by putting Ukraine aid on the floor. And so that's a good thing. And I think as long as he has Donald Trump supporting him, he's not going to go anywhere. There'll be a few people that obviously turn against Johnson and somehow think they can raise a bunch of money by doing that like Marjorie Taylor Greene does, but I think he'll survive.
And you mentioned that Trump has said he wants to conduct mass deportations. He gave this interview to Time magazine that came out this week, and he really was quite clear, laying out a lot of his plans for what he would like a second term to look like. And there are some of the things that he said, using the military to conduct mass deportations of migrants, firing civil servants that he calls bad, pardoning the January 6th rioters, saying states should decide whether to prosecute women who've had an abortion or even monitor women's pregnancies to identify those who've had the procedure. But Adam, yet we look at the polls and roughly half of America supports him right now. And so I hear what you're saying, yeah. Don't normalize him, but half of America is supporting him and will support him.
Yeah, it's a reality. I mean, look, every authoritarian movement that has come to power comes to power on the back of either a bad economy or convincing people that there's a bad economy, or on the back of crime or convincing people there's a problem with crime. So this year we've had actually a record decrease in crime, but Donald Trump is running on this idea that crime is skyrocketing because when people usually give up their freedoms is when they fear on those Maslow's hierarchy of needs for just basic safety. And so, yes, half of the country is normalizing him. Some of that the Democrats have to be aware of. They have ignored the border issues, or it seems that way. Even if they can come and say they haven't, it seems that way. They should be attacking Donald Trump daily on the fact that he made Republicans walk away from the table on this border deal. But I don't understand kind of why that message isn't out there. And it's resonating with Republicans or people that would lean Republican. I'm not sure that Donald Trump wins. I mean, I think it's still 50-50, but I think it's way too close. This is just my opinion. It's far too close than it should be, especially given that he's just openly talking about his authoritarianism.
Yeah, and so if I'm understanding you right, it sounds like what you're saying is that it really is that he is really capitalizing on these fears that some people may have out there, and really doing, it sounds like, a good job of being able to convince them that they're in danger in some way.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a good enough job to keep himself at about 50% in the polls. Look, I mean, the Democrats have some stuff they can talk about. They should, though, be much more forward-leaning on the border. I don't understand why there's this hesitancy to talk about it. Like, I'm pro-immigration. I'm very pro-immigration, but also as a guardsman, I worked the border, and I can tell you there's a real problem down there. I think if they lean forward on that, they're probably not going to win on the issue of immigration, but they'll certainly blunt some of Donald Trump's things. Now, you don't have to necessarily run for election fighting on Donald Trump's terms, but I think when you see the American people have a concern about something, you do need to fight on their terms. And so he's a demagogue. Demagoguery works, and you just got to push back against it.
And another thing that we heard him say in an interview this week, this was with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, he said he'd accept the election results if, quote, everything's honest. And then he went on to say it, he expects it will be, and will be, quote, he'll maybe win, maybe very big. You know, you sat on the January 6th committee. You've seen this all play out. What do you make of those comments and people out there who go, he's just saying that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, before January 6th, and actually before the election in 2020, remember, he said, yeah, I'll accept the results of the election if I win. And everybody laughed. Donald Trump, he's being funny. Now, he actually meant that. Like, that's what he said. If he didn't win, and so he didn't accept the results of the election. So that's what we have to take very seriously is, again, you can, as he's doing with the crime issue, for instance, where he's saying crime is out of control and rising, and it is out of control in certain areas, but macro, it's gone down. He can point to things and convince people, as he did in 2020, that an election is stolen, even against all odds, even against all court cases, 60 court cases that rejected him. But all you got to do is convince people, and he's pretty good at convincing people of some of that. So don't take what Donald Trump, people said usually, you know, like, don't take him literally, but take him seriously. No, take him literally and take him seriously, because he does telegraph what he is going to do. And I think he's telegraphing this, that he expects to win Wisconsin. And if he doesn't, he'll basically say, well, it was probably stolen again. Yeah,
and he's saying all of these things pretty clearly. All right, Adam Kinzinger, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for stopping by.
You too.